systems go. Clear for liftoff. What's up, everyone? Tyler Tamboline here, a.k.a. ToeTagginTambo, back for another edition of the Takedown Breakdown, Week 11 main slate, breaking down all things from the DraftKings winners, repeat winners. We'll go there, some of the good stuff, some of the sweats that I had, some of the stories. Got my guy Nades here with me as always. Nades, what's going on, man? Another Monday, another week in the books, though, for Sunday main slates.
Yeah, another awful main slate for me, but good thing the week's never over until both showdowns, right? Sunday night and Monday night. So made everything back and more last night in showdown, which was fun to see. I know you had a couple tough beats there, myself included in that game. Obviously, you had them for main slate and stuff. You're going to break through and talk about it. But our members just continue to absolutely smash. I know my dad yesterday in the afternoon slate turned $100 into over 6,500. And he's been off of work, so he texted me and he's like, "Hey, thanks so much for all the content. Really needed this. I've been off of work, so love to see that for my pops when it hits home like that. Your little family member gets the little shipper in there. 2 teams shipped everything pretty much in the afternoon yesterday, and then tons of members just absolutely crushed on small bankroll stuff or huge ROI days. Right? They're not maxing these tournaments like $148 into 55K and stuff I saw and things like that. So overall, incredible week and looking to run it back here tonight for sure.
Momentum's picking up, yeah, all weekend long. The MMA stuff, the Jake Paul stuff, the free money, everything. It was a good one. A lot of people winning, members, all that. This was just some of them listed there, but a ton. You can go check it out at SHIPIT Nation. You can go to my account at ToeTagginTambo. Check it out there. TambosTidbits.com. Just a reminder, this Saturday, the announcement will be for that. And then just going back to the perfect lineup. But before we get into it, got some good stuff here in the chat. Shout out to Sean. Go collect. Got the Kendrick Bourne call. Damn, I wish I paid that off better yesterday. That was a nice one on that. We had, the Goff stacks, which we'll talk about on all that as well. And then Nick sent his review. And I saw no reviews, member reviews today. We'll have more back next week. Got a lot of stuff to talk about. But this was the optimal lineup, Nades. It is the Goff stuff that Sean just talked about, so we can break it all down from that perspective. It obviously helped me on both the main slates, DraftKings and FanDuel, but Jared Goff, Montgomery, Amon-Ra St. Brown. This, I will say, forget going through the rest of it, the optimal is the nail down nuts of what I said yesterday. It's going to be, you're going to be in all the right places. Aaron Rodgers and stacking it up. Nope. Breece Hall. You're going to be Calvin Ridley. Nope. Nick Westbrook-Akine. You're going to be Tillman. Nope. Jerry Jeudy. Kamara. Nope. Taysom. Achane. Nope. Jonnu Smith. Like, it's literally the exact same thing that we said. This one does leave a bit on there, so you could have bumped it up from there and changed it a little bit, but 277 points in the optimal. Talk to me about this, Nades.
Yeah, so a lot of good plays here, actually, that obviously a lot of people got to. Realistically, on a main slate, you're probably never leaving 1,500 for most players, right? But the Goff stuff, literally the best matchup in football, right? I mean, quarterbacks are literally drawn stone dead, go to play Jacksonville and literally turn into Hall of Famers. It's actually crazy, right? When our listener league comes out in the beginning of the week, right, I go in and build kind of a skeleton team, looking at some stuff just to kind of reserve those. And I had the Goff double stacks in there, right? Hindsight's 2020. Ended up on obviously no Goff double stacks, but that stuff is interesting. And like you nailed it, right? I mean, people are trying to go back to Garrett Wilson, Dusty Rogers' ass with Devontae Adams, right? Why not Breece Hall in one of the best matchups? We just saw all the teams just absolutely destroy and run all over them there in that matchup. And going right back to the wall there, right? The Jahmyr Gibbs, right, was huge, definitely higher owned in my opinion than what Montgomery was. So it's the same story, right? Westbrook-Akine decides to score every single week. It seems like, I mean, you can pencil this guy in for 20 points. It seems like every week. It's crazy. But the Tillman, right, mega chalk. Nope, it's Jeudy, right? The Taysom stuff, right, is a leverage off of Kamara. I actually want to hit on that when we're doing some more lineup reviews, because I think that's a really good play, not because he scored 46 fantasy points, but in ways that, like myself, I was underweight on Kamara. I had one Kamara team, and it was part of a game stack. in hindsight, I should have probably had more Taysom, because if I was underweight on Kamara, how does Kamara fail? It's likely because a guy like Taysom eats his lunch, right? So just little learning there that I pulled. And then Jonnu Smith was in an incredible matchup, and everyone was kind of either punting both tight end spots, going all the way down, or going all the way up to a guy like Travis Kelce. So just kind of living more in that mid-tier range of the tight end spots, I think is another interesting talking point we can talk through tonight or today when you're looking at that, because obviously you have the Davis Allen stuff, right? The stone minimum guys, the Zylstra and Brock Wright, basically punt options in Detroit. But Jonnu Smith has been basically wide receiver, 2 in this offense for Miami, basically overtaken Waddle's role, right, in this offense. Tight ends have absolutely destroyed the Raiders all season long. Same thing with kind of the Taysom spot. So I think that was an interesting talking point. But overall, I mean, there's a lot of good plays here that made sense, and a lot of people were on yesterday for sure. So it's not like a crazy perfect lineup that we've seen in weeks past.
Yeah, and you got to look for some of these leverage spots. I'm going to use the stone we've got over at SHIPIT Nation, talk more on that after, but just to show it quick, like Jonnu Smith right there, solid $3,800. Obviously, everyone's playing Achane. He's in a great spot. He was getting, ownership. It was fine. Look at his optimal, but look down here. Jonnu Smith was pretty optimal as well, and a ton of leverage to go to a guy like him. So he made sense. If you go down to Taysom Hill, this is another interesting one. Projection, almost the same as, let's say, Njoku on the other side. It's not like Njoku got ownership, just showing some examples of how to use the stuff. It's like, look at the ceiling, though. No one has that ceiling like him over here, 19 more. Like, just the way the ceilings are calculated. So he's more likely to be optimal at less price. And you look up here and see everyone's playing Kamara. It's not that, it's what I said. You're in the right places with the wrong guys. That's something that can easily happen on a slate like this. So I think that was sort of a takeaway. There was another one I wanted to show off too. Oh, the Brock Bowers one. This didn't show up on like the perfect lineup or anything, but same thing. Jacoby Myers, Brock Bowers, different positions. So obviously it works in when you've got cheaper tight end options that you didn't end up needing them, but just little things that you could see like that. The Browns. This is another one. It's almost the same projection, almost the same ceiling, $100 difference in the price for Judy. 24% or 8 was the projected ownership. So the only thing different between them was ownership. That was another spot that you could have targeted and went after as well. So little things like that you're seeing, I think this is kind of the setup that you got to look at and not be too worried about. Again, if you landed in all the wrong places, I get it. But the other thing is, just going back to Sean's point up here for a second, and we'll talk on this Goff stuff for a minute. Basically what he said, if it didn't hold long enough, said, I really didn't think about these, but thanks, makes sense. The other play the offense when others can't even talk, but makes a lot of sense to play the other side of that offense when many others and I wanted Gibbs and Monty. I don't think you did anything wrong playing Gibbs and Monty. This is what I kept saying yesterday, and it's not about the result. It's, again, they actually got there too, so it is about the result, but just the process going in was, if you land there, don't be surprised. These guys are totaled for 31 almost, and we literally saw them break 30 in the first half last time this happened. And in this case, it's the Jags. Like, everything is solid. The matchup's going to be good. All of that. So the key was really is if you wanted to overstack it. And if you don't watch, I'm extremely biased to the shows that I talk about, but this show, you're already here. Great to be here. If you're not trying to get better, I don't know what you're doing. I know not a lot of people tune into these as much as they probably should. So I always say these types of things aren't for everybody, but they should be. I talk to all the best players in the world all the time. They're all reviewing their game, working on it, going behind the scenes, seeing what other people are doing. If you're not doing that, you're not having success, that's your first miss. If you are doing that, it takes time, longevity, experience, all that goes into it, but you're in the right place. The second show that I would tune into is with Mayo and I. We break down roster construction and layers. He talked about this Lions spot, saying that maybe off the Goff, 5 interception game, 6, like just insane bad game, maybe Dan Campbell, who just drives everybody to the last minute, goes out there and lets them throw it around till the very end. And what did he do? Exactly that. Literally all 5 of these guys were involved. Brock Wright got a touchdown. Like, you could pretty much play whatever. I know you saw overstacks get there, but as long as you had, Goff, Montgomery, Jameson, let's say, even you didn't get to Amon-Ra or vice versa, they all still projected. Like, look at the ceiling on Amon-Ra at almost no ownership. And I think he ended up coming in even lower. I'm not sure if we have the ownership here. What did he come in at? 6%. Again, these are projected ownership. No one knows exactly what he's going to come in at, but it's just an example. So little things like that, and then all the showdown shows, the main slate show, things like that, depending on what you want to work on. but it is key to find these things out. So Nades, you had the Breece Hall call as well. Same thing here. Very solid across the board. Low to no ownership versus the others in his range. Look at the matchup. Rush defense, worst matchup on the board, pretty much one of them, right? So little things like that. Anything else you have to add just with looking at the tools and some of that stuff?
Yeah, just with the Breece Hall, right? I mean, people were just trying to make him work last week, right? And now automatically jumping off the well, right? Against the Colts, who can't stop anybody, right? And we just saw what Aaron Rodgers did. So if it's not, right, you think Aaron Rodgers is dust. You just saw that offense last week, the week before, right? I mean, people are going back in the well, just getting burnt. I know Hoop talked about it again, right? I'm going right back to the well. But people didn't want to play Breece Hall in that same offense, right? Who is like a wide receiver. I mean, this dude is making wide receiver catches, like one-handed grabs in the back of the end zone, stuff like that. So in one of the best matchups in football. So, I mean, overall, I just thought that was not only that, but he also leveraged all those running backs at the top tier too, right? The H-Ins of the world and that. So there's just so many leverage plays built into the Breece Hall. And then people are like, oh my God, Breece Hall got so lucky to get there. Well, it's not getting lucky. I mean, he's always been involved in this offense. So I just laugh at that kind of stuff too, right? Because I saw a lot of stuff on Twitter. Oh, Breece Hall was so efficient to get there and got so lucky in this and that. I mean, sometimes that's going to happen when you're in a good matchup. It's a good play, and it's not like he's a fourth string running back, right? He's a pivotal part of the offense.
Yeah, 100%. I love that call, and that's certainly something that you want to keep an eye on because, again, it's not like he was super high owned or anything either, and the matchup was just as good for the run game as it was for the pass game. I know there was some Anthony Richardson talks all week, and people played him, and that was a good play. 5,300, you could play him with Breece Hall even and cancel it there. You could put him with Josh Downs or someone like that. So lots of ways to get to it. Shout out to Andrew, always in here every week working on his game. $80 into 500. Says thanks, guys. Appreciate it, man. I saw you reached out on X as well, so congrats to you. That was a nice one. Same thing here. I would just say this, like, I'm going to talk about it. I got, I'm only human. I definitely live by nobody cares, work harder, but, still have some emotions that go with some of these ups and downs. And yesterday was not an ideal finish on the DraftKings slate, but the ending of the main slate was good. So a great day overall that I'm very thankful for, but you still have ups and downs and everybody's playing different bankrolls and stakes and all this other stuff. But if you are getting your ass kicked and you're sniffing all the wrong trails, just know that, there could be some positive regression coming. I've had a ton of misses all season long. Yesterday was definitely a hit, but the hit could have been even better. So it's not that I'm not thankful for it or grateful and move on to the next happy. It's that it's still, maybe that's the momentum builder. Maybe now I really smash it tonight or this upcoming week or something. So you just got to stick with it. But that's the only way to lose is to quit. So if you're playing the game, you're sticking to bankroll management, you've got your own process, and you're using contest selection to keep the sustainability, that's certainly the way to go. And shout out to Joanne. We're always going to do that, and we appreciate you for stopping by. Shout out to my guy, Steven Neighbors. But yeah, lots of good weeks out there for sure. So, took another angle with Chubb. Don't think there was anything wrong with that. That's, funny you bring that up. I like that call out because this was another one, right, Nate? It did not work out. And he was actually in my lineup on FanDuel that only got me 6 points over there. That could have been, again, the whole 200K. I only missed by a point, basically. But Nick Chubb, great spot. We talked about him. Cheaper, just as cheap over on FanDuel. He's in the same spot. Look at this matchup, right? And everyone wants the passing game. And this was just a flip-flop of the other side. You can argue, though, I think, just looking at one thing, this is another thing to do with the tools over here at SHIPIT Nation. Look at these optimals. Like, the pass game definitely still looked a lot better than Chubb versus if you go down to the Jets game, even though I was with Hoop and going back to the well on Aaron Rodgers, look at the optimal, it still was Breece Hall and the matchup. So maybe that's a little nugget that you could take away when you're looking at the stone is keep some of this stuff in mind versus if you go back up here, both matchups are the same, almost like the Colts, really good matchups. And even though Chubb looks good and his lower ownership, there was still low ownership with Judy. Your ownership was still kept in check for Winston, etc. And we did have better optimal numbers on the pass stuff than we did on the running game. So just little things like that you can keep an eye on there, but definitely like that idea. The Lions did keep throwing. Yes, that is annoying. It was helpful to me on both those lineups, but that was what I was saying about the Mayo show. He brought up that could be the case where Dan Campbell just says, keep at it. And Dan Campbell has got burnt on this before. I can't remember. Maybe the chat knows who it was, but last year, whether it was going into the playoffs or first round or whatever it was, there was a game that they were taking flack for playing their starters still. And he said, no, I'm old school. I'm still going to do it. And somebody got hurt. I can't remember who it was and how serious it was, but just a little note there to add that on as well. All right. Let's move on. We're going to start at the 555 milli maker. So two familiar faces on both milli makers this week, Nades. One, very familiar, Giant Squid. So shout out to Giant Squid. We literally just talked about him 2 weeks ago. He won the milli maker 2 weeks ago. He won it again yesterday. And he also won live final seats. He won a huge showdown finish there. He had some other big scores yesterday too. And then he had me over on FanDuel. If I can go back here and find my account, just see here, cancel. Go back to this one. See if I can not lose it for once here. How come it's not going to? There it is. On FanDuel yesterday, this was the result and the run out. Giant Squid came first and second to my third place, and it was only by about a point. But yeah, on top of his milli maker day, on top of all that. So I'll come back to this here in a second, but let's go back to this one. Here's the lineup, Nades. I'll let you break it down. It's Goff, Amon-Ra, Williams. He had double tight end with Taysom and Barner. He had Breece Hall, who you talked about. Secondary stack with Kenneth Walker, Jawan Jennings. Barner was mixed in as a combo pack. And then the Chicago D used 49.9, some leverage pieces in there for sure. And 229 points took down the 555 milli maker for his second milli maker in 2 weeks and fourth for him in general. He's got an MLB and an NBA one as well.
Yeah, first of all, congrats to Squid. Don't know him personally, but just know he smashes all sports, NHL, MLB. I mean, obviously, MLB, everything, literally every sport. So congrats to him. Probably had about a $2 million day yesterday, which is pretty incredible. But absolutely love this build, and there's quite a few reasons. Obviously, I already hit on the Goff stuff, right? Coming off the 5 interception game, Dan Campbell's a donkey. And it's literally the best matchup in football when people are trying to make the running game work. Obviously, the running game still got there, but the passing game got there in a bigger way. The double stack, you don't need a run back because who is it going to be on Jacksonville's side, right? Just a mess there. So we've seen that kind of trend continue quite often, right, this year in spots like this, because usually in these best matchups, on the flip side, you just don't know, right? It's usually against a shitty team. They have multiple different guys, tight ends, things like that can get involved. You just don't need to go there. So like that first to start. The Breece Hall play, I love that because it leveraged the Achane piece for $300 more than Achane. It also leveraged the passing side of Aaron Rodgers, Devontae, Garrett Wilson, Conklin, that stuff. So really like that play a ton, but also like the setup here because guess what? Most people were doing yesterday when they were playing Barner. They were playing CMC. So what did he do? He flipped the CMC build with Kenneth Walker on the same team as a combo pack with Barner, and then went to Jawan Jennings, who we had a sample size of him just absolutely smashing when Ayuk spent off the field, and then he also got Kittle off the field. So he flipped the script on the same team in the same game environment and used Barner in a different way. And then basically played Taysom Hill as a leverage piece off of Kamara, who Taysom Hill, I think, had passing yards. He had rushing yards. He had receptions. I mean, the dude literally does it all. And he came in at 3%, also off of a pivot off the chalky tight ends in that range, right? Dawson Knox, he's $1,000 more than Dawson Knox in that range. Obviously, Davis Allen was mega chalk projected there. Hunter Henry, right? He's $600 more than Hunter Henry in that range, and he's also not playing Kamara. So absolutely love that. Chicago defense. Who was the chalk defense? Tennessee. $100 more expensive Chicago defense at home in an outdoor game against Jordan Love, who's definitely shown struggles this season. So overall, absolutely love this build. Leveraged a ton of plays and overall flipped the roster construction script because when he was playing, everybody was playing that game. They were playing CMC or they were playing the Birdie side. Why not go to the Kenneth Walker side, use up that running back spot, throw in the cheap combo pack in Barner, just take whatever he gets you, and then grab the main piece on the other end in Jawan. So overall, love the build. Super leveraged with good plays.
Yeah, really good job. Lab says the heater of all heaters. Doesn't even matter. Yeah, they play to win. We play to win all the time. Like that's exactly why you're playing the game. Want 5 milli makers, 6 milli makers. I want 1. Like it's that kind of thing. You're looking for the big wins. You're playing for the yourself. It's not just for the money at that point too, right? They're playing for collecting the most milli makers, winning live finals, getting trophies on the shelf. Like there's lots of other things that go into it. Why professionals that play it, for different meanings for that than just making a few bucks. Like that's sort of what it is. And Squid, one of the best to ever do it. So he's out there and he's still doing it. So congrats to him. I don't know, Danny, I know you just joined up the other day, but what I would say is like, you basically just load up 2 screens. You could put my slate plan on one. If you wanted to play it, it's up to you. I suggest you sort of build your own stuff and get your own process around using the stone and mixing and matching what you actually want to play. But if you wanted to use my player pool, you would use the slate plan, clear out SHIPITizer to nothing, build all of my guys in, and then set up the rules and all that stuff and go from there. There's a tutorial on the site on how to do it. It doesn't really matter what your contest selection is for that. If it's an MME type pool, you're building in some of the presets, all of that stuff. So lots of ways. I will say it did crush. It was Jonnu Smith mixed with Taysom is what you pretty much wanted to have. But I'm going to talk more on that in a second. I'm going to talk more on this. And then shout out to our guy, Kyle, go collect. Yeah, hit the like button. It takes 2 seconds. Make sure you're subscribed when we do get to 9,000 subscribers on here. It's free to subscribe. There's no charge to subscribe to the YouTube channel. We are going to give away a $549 6-month all access with SHIPITizer package. So I will say this is the game we're playing right now, though, especially later in the season. 3 points doesn't matter and 4 points doesn't matter when you're stacking in 46, 26, 25, 42, 31, and 38. You need the big boy scores. If you can get 5 guys to score 30, you're in a great place, especially on smaller slates and with slates where there's less value. I actually did something for the upcoming project that I'm working on the other day that I think had one of the best breakdowns, so I won't go too deep into it. The spoiler alerts and the teasers are always going to be the T in ToeTagginTambo stands for teasers, so we'll save that. But just to say it, it was one of the best breakdowns of the lottery in forever, Nades. And what was said was this, is when you go to a slate, doesn't matter if it's football, basketball, hockey, whatever it might be, if there's a ton of value plays on the slate, note, for this example, this slate had no value, right? We were begging for value on this slate. But if you're playing one lineup and you're just thrown into the lottery to get lucky, it could be the best lineup in the world and you're still screwed. Here's why. He gave the exact example, the lottery analogy, and it's legit. If you're in a lottery, how many numbers, balls are in the Powerball? I'm not American. Obviously, I'm a little bit ignorant to it.
Like 60 some plus. I mean,
let's say it's 69, a nice number of balls. Okay, 69 balls in the pit, and you're playing that lottery, and you got one ticket. It's going to be tough to win that lottery. When you're playing in a large field lottery style tournament in DFS, and you add in a ton of value plays, you've essentially added in 100 more balls into the lottery. Because even if you have the best plays and you have a great lineup that's built to win the style of lottery tournament that you're in, you only have one lineup. Someone who has 150 is still behind because there's thousands of entries, but they have more tickets to the lottery. They're going to be able to cover more angles. So on a slate when there is less value plays, it's better to probably be involved in that. On a slate when there's more value plays, it's probably better for you to play some single entry or some higher dollar, smaller field or something. It doesn't even matter the buy-in, because even though there's all those value plays, you can afford to make more mistakes when you're up against less people. The example I was giving for this one, and the reason it set up well, was because you didn't really have a lot of value. So the key component was finding the big scores, and the best way to do it is via correlation with the team with the biggest team total on the slate and stack them. Goff, Amon-Ra, Jameson Williams, get some one-offs to some places other people are living and breathing. Everyone's playing CMC, flip it to Walker, go to Jennings. That little setup there. Everyone's playing Kamara, go to Taysom. He can really leverage him. So a great job of doing that. Thought that was a key just to show off there, but that was the analogy I got from somebody this week that I thought I would share. All right, let me share something else. This is the other one. FJ Bourne came in second place. If you go back here, this was the worst beat of my life. Nobody cares work harder, but I'm still going to tell you about it because it helps to get it out of my system and give you an example that you just got to keep putting in the work. You still show up for work on Monday. No matter what, you do what you got to do. I was winning this 216. Sully Bro Chill, another awesome dude, great player, was right behind me at 202, right behind me. I mean, he was 14 points behind at this point. I got a couple more late. Bourne was behind him. There is 8 minutes left in this game with Denver. Again, it's never over till it's over. Denver is up 31-6. I have Estime. Neither FJ Bourne or Sully Bro Chill have Estime. It's the best spot for me that I can imagine. But just to tell you the behind-the-scenes story. It's not on TV because it's a blowout, and I'm not watching just that game even on Sunday Ticket. It's not on the red zone because it's a blowout. I look down and get the notification and see Denver scored a touchdown. With 31-6 and 8 minutes left, I thought for sure the rookie busted one. I'm like, my guy Estime might have just sealed the ticket for me, and he goes. Nope. It was a 40-yard touchdown from Bo Nix to Lil Jordan Humphrey. The exact same lineup, the 222.2 here that you can see, the same one, FJ Bourne. So shout out to my boy. I love Frankie. He's my guy. I've met him at a few live finals. Excellent dude. Lives on the East Coast. Great guy. But I text his ass. I said, oh, man, you're the super sicko, man. Like, that is the sickest beat I've ever received. He got the Bo Nix bonus. It just put him over 300 yards, like 306 or something. He got the Bo Nix touchdown, and somehow he had the Lil Jordan Humphrey 2%er to pass me with the 222 to my 216, where I was running away with it. So it cost me a seat to Nashville, the worst live final beat, but it is what it is. We move on, but his lineup was Bo Nix, Lil Jordan Humphrey, Elijah Moore at lower ownership than Tillman. It allowed him to fit some of the big boys in. He chose to go Amon-Ra instead of, I really like this build overall, so don't get me wrong here. Amon-Ra over Kamara, Taysom over Kamara, like he spent that money on Amon-Ra, and then he spent the money on a pay-up tight end with Brock Bowers across from Achane, as opposed to going Jacoby Myers. And then it fit in a defense, which who cares? He went with New England in this case, having no Davis Allen or Rams in his lineup. But real quick, Nate's thoughts on FJ Bourne's lineup. A really good player, really awesome dude. And he shows off the losses. He's shown when he's on like 400K downswings and stuff and then bouncing back from them. So really appreciate that about him as well. He understands it's a long game. Talk to me about this one, Nate.
Yeah, I like this build a lot because he built it differently. The most popular build yesterday was 3 running backs, and it was 2 of the 3 Henry, not Henry, but basically Kamara and McCaffrey together, right? Or a guy like Achane, right? So he knew he was playing Achane and McCaffrey. He knew the field likely also had Kamara, so he leveraged that with the Hill. But also he leveraged the tight end position, right? When people were playing double tight end, they were punting both tight end spots or spending down. He spent up for a guy who has a massive ceiling every single week, Brock Bowers, who's also leveraged off of Jacoby Myers on the same team, right, that we hit on earlier. And he flipped the script by doing it, right? Because people that were using double tight ends were using double tight ends as a way to afford Kamara, to afford McCaffrey, to afford the spend up receivers or the 7K receivers, right? So he flipped that, went to 7K running back, the 2 spend up tight ends, and then punted the wide receiver position with a guy like Little Jordan, and then Elijah Moore, who leveraged Cedric Tillman, who was the chalkiest wide receiver on the entire slate. So overall, really good build. And yeah, I mean, excellent build. It was a tough beat, but hey, putting yourself in chances there one of these days it's going to come through, right? When luck, right? When luck.
It's crazy. That was the one. I won't keep harping on it. Shout out to my guy 1-800 Degrees Miami, Jesse. He crushed. His lineup came in third in that tournament as well. So they both had big days. They got live final seats and a second and third. I'll show more on it in a second why I brought up at the same score there. And then Giant Squid was the Millie. So it was the Millie winner, third. Second place, FJ Bourne, second to him. Third place in the 555 Millie, and Utica third. So I know I'm doing it right. This is when you know you're doing it right. When you have to take positives away from, even though it's a positive day, it's not the exact day I was hoping for. It would have been nicer with a live final seat and 200K, but I surround Sully Bochill, one of the best in the world as well. But I surrounded myself with great players that themselves had the live final seats and the big scores. I almost had that live final seat, and a Will Dissily dropped 5-yarder at the end away from 160K more. So it still feels good. It's still momentum. I did ship the showdown slate last night for the ugly 100-way chop. You guys know I build in sets. That was one of my chalkier, smaller sets that got in there where it's just like, okay, it's the best lineup. If it hits, it hits. But before I go through the last couple things here, and this is why I said we're not doing member reviews today, I want to review some of this stuff. FJ Bourne, quickly, just one of the best lineups I've seen, actually, and just want to go through it quickly. But to what you said, it's basically a balanced build, which we know everyone was sort of doing this stars and scrubs thing again with all these running backs. He was able to keep 2 of those running backs sub the third, still get the secondary stacks in there. Taysom, Moore, no Kamara. Brock Bowers, Achane. It cuts into the Myers stuff there and flips the build. Just need a cheap guy? Why not put the cheap guy with the quarterback that I'm going with? So it's kind of like if he does do that at the end, it gives me that shot. And you're expecting pretty good results from CMC, Achane, Amon-Ra. All these other guys were the right guys. Sorry, the right spots, the different guys. So I definitely think that's the key there. Defense didn't matter. -1. You can take it. It might have mattered to get the whole shipper, but I'm just saying in general, one of the best builds because it still featured correlation. secondary stacks, and basically just needed Humphrey to do anything, which also boosts the quarterback. So it is top end for sure. Definitely think that's kind of the key there. Just to show 1-800-Degrees Miami, another great player, live final winner, Fantasy Football World Championship winner, and just got another seat yesterday to hop in to go around this time in Nashville. It was a Jameis Judy Njoku with a Taysom run back. So the double tight end featured in the same game. Got a piece of these other spots. Estime, no CMC, did pair up the defense with it. Jets D with Breece Hall. Denver, Buffalo, Detroit pieces. That's where your leverage came in. Ended up getting 220 points there. Any quick thoughts on that one, Nades, before we move on?
Yeah, I mean, more of the same thoughts, right? Just leveraging, right? Going to the same stack, right? I'm sure he had Tillman sets too in there, but if you're already in on that game, that was a miss from myself, right? I played Tillman on both my Jameis teams on my 5, which it's not results oriented. It's just kind of looking at the stone, and all 3 of those guys were all highlighted, right? And you knew Tillman was coming in with the mega chalk. Why play him in both, right? Cover the kind of the chalkier way and then use the other guys, because if he busts, right, it's likely due to the other wide receivers, right, getting there. So overall, I like to build a ton, and just built it differently, right? Because I mean, most lineups yesterday came preloaded in with one of CMC or Kamara or both, right? So just flipping the script there.
Yeah, shout out to Kyle. Had a really good week. He said he just literally pulled up the slate plan. Told me via DM that he woke up at like 5 a.m. So this is what I'm talking about. People that are putting in the work, got to call it out and shout out that. That's all love there. Love to see it. That's how you get after it. That's certainly what it is. Steven Neighbors always supporting over at SHIPIT Nation, and here now just saying, how much do I count for that? Certainly some. Like, that's going to be the key to it, right? If you're going to have a guy like the Taysom Hill example, I know what that floor is. I know he could get you nothing. They might not be featuring him this game, injuries or not. We've seen it go bad, but you're playing him for when it goes good. And in this case was a perfect spot. It was almost like the week everyone said, the first week when Aaron Rodgers did really bad and everyone was saying that was a horrible play. It was like, I don't really care because I know that Breece Hall is 30% owned and there's a chance. And he had like 220 and 2 touchdowns. Just he also had 3 picks. The big day was there. The potential of it. You're just playing. You're going to pay to find out. I always say that. So I think that's key. Coach Sab said, try DFS, had a great first weekend, decided to join y'all. This sample size is too limited. I appreciate that you're still respecting it and saying you're going to, help. We helped you and you're learning. That's the key. But you need a way, way bigger sample size to figure it out. Like I had one winning DFS week up until yesterday. I'm still not quite back to even on the year, but look how close it was to just busting the year wide open. So it just goes to show you still got to grind. You still got to be in the streets. Try and be as honest as I can about that. Nick, your beat still was insanely bad. And I don't care whose is worse as much as, that was a bad beat. It's just those are the types of beats. And now you know that I'm right there with you. It happens to the best of them. You're included in that bunch. So now you know what it is. You see another one just happened to me. Literally, he could have thrown that touchdown to anybody but Lil Jordan Humphrey, and I still win that seat in walking away. So it's just a note. Anything can happen to go against it. And then Sixberg says, your bankrolls are insane. That was the question that I brought up earlier and I wanted to go to here. So going back to here to the contest dashboard, going to the 555, the milli, and then going to the exposures. Giant Squid was in for $55,000. I guarantee you he was not in for all that cash because he plays in the satellite streets, which I recommend everybody else does as well. More on that coming in the future. But I think for sure he won a bunch of these tickets, first of all. So his game translates to satellites and qualifiers, which is important. Mine does as well. That's what we're trying to learn from and find your way into these tournaments. He still came out, though, with a head. And I think this is another thing that gets confused all too often. One of the worst myths in all of DFS. Well, man, what an idiot. He put in $55,000. He basically needs to finish 4th to make money. Absolutely not. He could literally cash 20% of those lineups and still make money in some cases, as long as, 1 or 2 were doing something, because all these 2Ks and 1500s, they add up to 3X the buy-in. So people confuse that with, because he put in 55 grand, he needs to finish 4th. That is a full bold-faced lie. That is not true at all. And again, with a player of his talent, and go to the board, go to look at it. My guy Fantasin, always up there. 1-800-Eddie, DC. These are all Carney, Squirrel Patrol. There's Giant Squid again. Hard 4. Some of the best players in the world. Chipotle Addict, Utica. They're all over the board. And go back here to exposures. Who's an example? DC was in for, what was he in for? 5,500. Still made 5X and barely shot on the board. 1-800-Eddie was in for 25 entries and still got ahead a little bit on the day. They still took Carney right about at even on the day. It's all what you're looking at here. If you want to see further, it's like Squirrel Patrol. Squirrel Patrol lost money, right? Was in for 20 lineups, but who knows how many he got through qualifier tickets or whatnot. And then you see Squirrel Patrol over here. I was battling with him. Another 30K, just won like 400K last week, was right there. So, he had his shot to get it all back and more with the 200K in this one. So it's all part of the grind. It's all that way. But this is part of the review process. You can go and look. NYG fan, my buddy, he went on there and got 2 entries in, made a little bit of profit, but he gave himself a spot. So it's all that what you want to look at. If you want to look at it further, you can see it here. Utica was in for 150 and got back 33K. So, the best players in the world lose too. It happens. McLovin in for 150, lost 42,000 on this tournament specifically. Maybe he won it elsewhere. I didn't go through all of his other wins and losses on the day. The point is, though, in this tournament, you can go and find that. So keep that in mind when you're looking at stuff too. Any other thoughts on that, Nate? Just the, people max entering and whatnot. But you don't need to come forth just because you put in 50K. That would pay it off. You have a bunch of other lineups that cash as well.
Yeah, not only that, these guys play they're professional players, right? They play every slate, multiple sports, diversify their portfolio across FanDuel and DraftKings. But not only that, a lot of they play main stuff, right? Whether it's cash or whether it's high dollar single entry stuff, they're playing satellite. So yeah, they could have lost in this 555, but they could have won 3 mega tickets, right? For the 3-3-3-3, right? In December, right? With 2 million up top. So it's just like little things like that. Just diversifying a portfolio. And yeah, you could play 20 lineups in there and not have one in the top 10 and literally 3x your money in the contest, right? So it's just things like that. And for bankroll, right? I don't play a massive bankroll, not because I can't. It's just I play DFS. Obviously, is kind of like a side hustle, a pastime. I love it. I put a lot of work in and time into my game, but I'm not going in and throwing a 555. The reason I'm playing those tournaments is I'm getting in through a $9 satellite. I'm getting in through a $19 satellite to the megas, right? Things like that on showdown slates and in different contests, right? NHL slates, because I know a lot of people don't play NHL, and I got an edge in that. And I play in satellites for NFL. In the NHL streets, things like that. NBA streets have satellites for other tournaments and things like that. So whatever find your niche and diversify 10% of your bankroll to a satellite, because that gives you an opportunity. Yeah, most of the time you're going to lose, right? Because you're playing for first or nothing realistically in those satellites. But the time you hit, maybe you throw in $9 and you lost for 5 weeks in a row, right? $45. But guess what? The 6th week you hit and you got a 555 ticket or a 4444 mega ticket and you min cash that. Well, now you're up on the entire year. So just little things like that, right? It's just, you got to stay within your means and just give yourself a chance, right? Because if you go in and you just say, oh, this is the week I'm going to go in and I'm going to blow all my bankroll. Well, if you lose that week, then you have zero chance to even be in the streets, right? You need to be in the streets to make money. So little things like that. And we teach you all that and talk about all that in the Discord constantly. There's videos up on the site. We got some of the best, one of the best bankroll players, ROI kings in the world in Titletown in our Discord every single day, right? He is the king of ROI. So just talking on things like that. But yeah, I would highly anticipate jumping into those satellites if you're not a high bankroll player. And Tambo, you can talk on that yourself, right? A lot of those high bankroll contests that you're playing, you're not going in and depositing or grabbing those out of your cash bank. Those are majority of the time tickets, right?
I'm not playing anything really 555 and up unless I got a ticket for it, right? I got 5 for the big ultimate at the end of the year. I got 5 through 33 tickets just sitting there waiting. That's got a great structure. Look to pay that off. Maybe that's when my big hit gets there for the huge one, right? I'm happy to get the momentum last night, but we'll get to Vegas Vitsy in a second. Had a great week. Member over in the Discord, it was like $150 or $148 into 55 grand or something. So shout out there. But back to this real quick, Sixburg, because you brought this up. I want to talk about this too. Multiple 555 entries, and then these breakdown shows are such a kick in the nuts after a losing weekend, but a necessary part, much appreciated. If you want to take solace in it, it's not to take shots at these guys. All these dudes are awesome people. I've met most of them, hung out with them, partied with them. These are all great dudes. But you got to be able to, don't forget there's swings to it, man. Like Utica, 33 grand loss in this. Chipotle Addict, 45 grand. Papa, 51, 42. You don't always win 2 milli makers over 2 weeks like Giant Squid. Here's one. Jay Gerbs, no shot. Amazing stuff. Jay Gerbs won the Millie last week. Boom. There goes 80, almost 71 grand right back to it. And maybe won something else there. So I don't know. It made more than that on the day. I'm just saying, you see their one screenshot and you probably think everything is good. This is well within Jay Gerb's bankroll. He or she was loaded and ready for this and ready for it to happen. And if it happens, it happens. But they didn't spend money they didn't have, or didn't spend money they didn't win through DFS or whatever else it might be. It doesn't always go this way. And it's, sometimes on, look at McNickers, one lineup. Maybe they got it off of a ticket and boom, it turns 555 into 50K. Look at that return. So it's a mentality thing. I always use the baseball one. A lot of the best hitters in baseball, literally the best hitters in baseball, are not doing anything 70% of the time. So now apply that to the season that you're playing at hand and call it 75% of the time. Let's just call it for this sake. 9 months, you're sucking. 3 months can change everything and change the whole game, and you're fine. Like I lose 10 out of 11 weeks. There was weeks where I don't care about up 1,000, down 1,000. Like some weeks are almost break even. Other weeks I lost like $8,000. It's part of what I'm doing. But it's the setup of now a week like yesterday gets me almost all the way back and more. And there was so much meat on the bone that it could have been even better. I still got those tickets sitting in the wind that I could, if I just min cash those or even a couple of them, it's another 10, 15. You're still making money and you're in it for the right reasons. I know what my contest selection is. I know what contests I'm good at. I know what my bankroll is. I handle it all that way and have discipline. But the baseball mentality of you're going to strike out or not even get on base 7 out of 10 times, you're just, what do you do with those other ones? One grand slam at the right timing to walk off can pay it all off too. It's not that that's what you're waiting on, but it can happen. That's kind of the point. So keep that in mind. Go Collect brings it up. It's higher. It's like 80 or 90% in DFS. But shout out Vegas Vitsy here. Here's the lineup, and then we'll go to my buddy Circling the Drain, the winner, longtime friend, getting the job done. Congrats to him. But let's do Vegas Vitsy. And look at these margins, Nate. 232, 232, 231.9, 231.1. Vegas Vitsy had the Detroit stack. Talk to us about this lineup.
Yeah, so the Detroit stack already hit on that earlier, hit on the Breece Hall, right? The Breece Hall was such a good play yesterday, not because he scored 31 points, right? But it was just all the leverage built into that. I mean, 7% projected, 7% ownership. I mean, he's literally almost 30% less owned than Achane, right? Obviously, he played Achane together, but notice he didn't have CMC, he didn't have Kamara, so he played Taysom Hill. He still punted the tight end spot, got a 0, right? I mean, if he plays Zylstra there, he ships the Millie, right, at the same spot, who's also been proven. So it's just little things like that. I mean, what ifs, coulda, shoulda, woulda, right? If he didn't pair Breece Hall with the defense, things like that. So that just shows you also how the beats can not go your way, even being in the spots, right? It's hindsight's 2020. But I love the Juwan thing, right? The Juwan leveraging the CMC. He still had ownership, but he leveraged it, double leveraged, right? The CMC stuff with playing Breece Hall at the position and then still grabbing a piece from that San Fran that he can just get there alone, right? With the catches alone. So overall, love the build. Much of the same stuff when we broke down Squid's build.
Yeah, just remember, it was like, smaller slate of games versus like the 13 and 14 game stuff we see earlier in the season or recently before the bye weeks and stuff. But everybody was on Achane, Kamara, and CMC. He was on Achane, Kamara, disguised as Taysom Hill, and CMC, disguised as Juwan Jennings. Obviously, I'm kidding, but in the sense of knowing he's literally in the exact same spots, even some of them, the same exact spot, or some with ownership that's similar. But notice it's how he flips the build and how he's doing. He's getting the Detroit high team total at low to no ownership. He's getting Breece Hall at low to no ownership. He's getting Taysom Hill off Kamara, and then he still has the 3 spot of the Saint, the 49er, and the Dolphin, the exact same Dolphin that everybody's playing, but just mixed it up that way, paired the defense with Breece Hall. It's not that it mattered. Look, a 3 and a 0. I don't think anything wrong with the build. I wouldn't expect Zylstra or Wright and moving stuff around. I think in general, it's just the luck of the draw. It's you put yourself in the position to get lucky. The best part is Vegas Vitsy had this elsewhere, right? And got the job done for full ships and in other tournaments and whatnot. So congrats to Vegas Vitsy. One last thing before I finally do get to my guy Josh here, getting the W yesterday, is this margin, 232.5 and 232. I think it was this one. I don't want to go too many places. I'm going to go back to something else after. But look at this. The Seattle defense he had to ride this out till the very end. I'm not sure if you guys saw it, but at the end of that game, the 49ers tried to do some laterals and shit. And then the guy threw it at the last second to the linebacker. I don't know if it's because he's not allowed to catch it. I forget what the rule is, but anyway, it didn't counter because the time was fully off the clock. They did give him the 2 points. So he thought he was taking a 900K hit at the end because he dropped to second and BRB 333 jumped into first, had to sweat that out. They fixed it and then put him back into first. Then they gave it back to BRB, which you think is like the kiss of death. You're like, damn, I thought they fixed it and it was mine. And then they kicked it out again. So literally just insane sweats all around for people. Always, it's just the way it goes, but that's the fun in it. CRC, as most call him, or circling the drain, no vowels. My buddy Josh here, I've known him for years. Haven't kept in touch as much as I'd like, but certainly appreciate him. And I'm going to talk to him here soon. He's agreed to hop on and do something with me there. So just to note it, he's won the Fantasy Hockey World Championship. He shipped that. He's won a ton of tournaments along the way. And this was pretty awesome to see. Is he only played 6 entries into this yesterday. He's dialed into focusing more on less lineups and only had 6 entries in this to ship it and get the job done. So congrats to him. Tons going on, I'm sure. Full-time job, all that sort of stuff. But just in general, getting the job done. Here was the lineup, Nades. It was Goff through. But before you go into that, I want to show one thing real quick, too. Back to this 555. Jared Goff, Bo Nix, Jameis Winston. So there's tons of ways to get there, right? It wasn't like it was all Jared Goff, as everybody suspected, but CRC's lineup was Jared Goff, Amon-Ra, Jameson Williams, much of the same. Did not need to run it back. He had Breece Hall, Estime. He was probably just as tilted as I was with Estime not doing anything really and just getting shit called back and all this other stuff. Taysom, Achane, and the Miami defense. Really nice build, 49.9. Thoughts on this lineup?
Yeah, I love this build. It was nice to see the Kendrick Bourne there, so you can go back and clip that, right? Millie Maker Bourne. But not only that, I mean, it was the points you brought up, but Boutte or Booty or however you pronounce his name, right? He came in at like 15 or 17% or something like that on the same team. And there was no value on the slate, right? You knew Bourne, right? When one of those guys got inactive, right? Scratched, that he had opportunities. They're at home, right? They're in a spot where they're not favored to win the game. They're going to have to pass the ball. Drake May's been showing success to pass the ball. So I like that play a lot there. And then the rest of the lineup, we kind of hit on a lot, right? Obviously, he's probably pretty tilted, right? That estimate obviously didn't cost him like it costed you as much. But just overall flipping the script. And you've noticed more of these mid-tier type builds, right? On slates like yesterday where we had no value, we were trying to make CMC and Kamara together work in lineups, right? Why can't the guys who are underpriced for their roles, right? Taysom Hill, obviously, you're not expecting 46 when you go play him. But if you're not playing Kamara, living in that mid-tier, Achane at 7,200, right? How many times can Achane outscore a CMC or a Kamara for $1,000 or more cheaper, right? Pretty often. The mid-tier quarterbacks, right? Just overall kind of that mid-tier build when you're strapped for value, I think is definitely a talking point because we've seen the optimal the last, 4 weeks or 5 weeks in a row be more mid-tier focused because value the last how many weeks have been pretty trash outside of obviously the tight end position. So I think that's one call out there, just living in the more mid-tier than kind of overspending for some of these running backs who earlier in the year, right, we're paying 7,200, 7,300. Now they're up to 82, 83, 8,400, right? So they're $1,000 more expensive. That $1,000 goes a long way in your roster construction when you got guys like Keyshawn Boutte, who's projected to be 20% owned for the Patriots, right?
And for no reason, like literally no reason. We talked about that on the show yesterday. It's when there's no value, people are just begging to make something work. Even if they didn't scratch Tyquan Thornton, which is what I was waiting on, let go of Tyquan Thornton and then scratch KJ Osborne, which is what I was waiting for. It was still going to be a spot of like, why were we going? They would have had 4 or 5 wide receivers there. Like, why is he the one? It just doesn't make any sense. And I know that, you gotta, some of the tools will show one thing and you got to take it for what it's worth and move it to the next thing. But my take would just be like, even here, if you go to our stack rankings, which have always been good, especially later in the season as it goes on, I don't know, give them Bo Nix and Lil Jordan Humphrey. That's what pisses me off so much still is that I said it yesterday, even on the show. I said, to be honest, Hoop, this is the one week you may want to consider him because no value. Again, I would have done what FJ Bourne did and paired him with my quarterback because you're not playing him typically as a one-off. the reason Bourne works better as a one-off than Lil Jordan Humphrey, not results-oriented, I'm talking about strategy and stuff, the way I think going in, and I think a lot of other pros do, is the setup of Bourne was a direct leverage pivot off of Boutte or whatever people say. I don't know the slang there. I like pronouncing people's names properly, by the way, but if I don't know it, I don't care. Like I'm moving on. I got to just try and get to the winner's circle and ship these things. But with him, you're going up against like a 15 to 20% play for no reason. So that to me is just perfect. Just throw him in like CRC did to win the Millie and get that, upside from leveraging that. Someone like Lil Jordan Humphrey, if you make it work with Bo Nix, and I did it, by the way, with I said the Drake Kendrick stacks, the beef, right? The rap beef. If you put that together, you had a good start. May just didn't fully come through, but I liked May from here. But check it out, Nades. Bo and Humphrey, right? You got Jared Goff, Amon-Ra Jameson. They literally showed up on it. If you're not playing New York, it's still a guy that was heavily involved in these top lineups. It was Breece Hall, Taysom, for sure. Jawan Jennings, for sure. Jonnu Smith, for sure. Puka Nacua, we didn't have him on the value report, but also you could take the Davis Allen 0 to make other stuff work. Brock Bowers, for sure. May, pretty good start, but we already had the Bourne call to go with that. And then obviously Jerry Jeudy crushed, Winston crushed. All this. Again, you just stay from like the top, I don't know, 7 and up. You can do whatever you want. I'm just telling you, like if you are playing single entry or 3 max and you want a place to start, certainly a place to start is right there, and you can check it out that way. So I don't know. Anything else there you had with that?
The Bourne play too, another double leverage spot, right? You're not only leveraging the wide receiver on the same spot, you're also leveraging the tight end, Davis Allen, in the same exact game, right? At a different position for $600 more, right? So Davis Allen, right, came in pretty popular, right? Double-digit percentage for a tight end, which is pretty chalky, right? I mean, he came in at 13% in the Millie. Bourne was what? 2%, 1%. So you're scratching over 30% ownership from the same game at a onesie position, right? A one-off wide receiver versus a one-off tight end or a onesie tight end spot. So that I just wanted to add that as well.
Yeah, and Taco Todd brought this up, so I would add it in. Is like when in hindsight there was no value, and that's what we always talk about. The puzzle analogy is, we don't really know what it looks like till it flips over, and now we see the winners. Congrats to those winners. Really good players won yesterday. Everything. So it shows handling a slate with no value is hard. And the best players typically are the ones that figure it out. And that's what we're all about, is trying to help you become a better player. But why don't we use more Detroit with the highest total? Lesson learned. I'm going to actually show the whole board on this, and I'll go back to the chat for some more. But just going back in the stone, stack ranking, not good. Stack ranking total, not good. Notice none of these guys showed up anywhere. Stack, not good. Stack ranking, good. Team total, very good. Stack ranking, good. Team total, very good. Jonnu Smith was one of the guys. Again, how you got there? Achan showed up in a ton of lineups still, showed up good. This one over here, stack ranking good. Team total, not the best, but at least it went with a game, and it was Bowers more than it was Myers. It's not a guarantee. I'm just trying to show a few things off. Where else did we get good plays from? Puka Nacua, Bourne, who we talked about. Hunter Henry was okay. This spot was good, but team totals, stack rankings, good. And obviously we labeled the games too, but stack ranking, really good. Team totals over 20, almost 22, good. Ravens were okay, a little lower. Nothing came through there. That would have been a dud. But they're under that like 7.5 range that the others were above. So just noting it back on the stack rankings. Pittsburgh and Baltimore, Geno, who I like Geno, by the way. I say all these things fell down below. Also, in case you didn't check the record, I'll bust this one out again. Yeah, I still didn't need Mahomes. Keep looking for that one to work, because definitely never happening. Guy is literally useless in DFS. Doesn't matter. So just got to keep bringing that up and hammering it. Nothing really here. Again, these were, I guess, the Vikings. Anything get there for the Vikings? Addison, right? That was about it?
Yeah, just Addison. I mean, Jefferson, 14, but that's never winning your tournament at 8,600 with no value, things like that. So, yeah, didn't get there. Big
total at home, stack rankings favorite. Yeah, Breece Hall. We talked about earlier how to look at the differences of like Cleveland versus them. Pretty good here was Bo Nix. Lil Jordan Humphrey wouldn't have really made it for me, but he was in the stack rankings. This one fell short, really bad stack ranking, not the best total. It's lower than the other ones, higher than the other ones. CMC did enough, but not needed. Jennings was there, fine. Jennings definitely showed up. And then last one, didn't make it, didn't need it. Same as I always talk about. So just little things, but the Stone is the best tool. If you guys are still not over at SHIPIT Nation, there's a ton of the season left to go. We still have 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Any of those weeks you can be a millionaire. And also, Nades, the chat brought up your favorite thing to talk about right here. Bang. So you need 150 entries to ship the million. No, it'd be nice if you had them. We talked about reason, but when there's no value and you're just picking your spots, almost to my analogy that I brought up earlier from that player that I talked with, that is an example. Shipping the millie on just 6 entries. So real quick, if you go to join the nation on SHIPIT Nation, we did add 2 new packages. So if you go to single sport, you can get $99 for all of the content, just not the optimizer, our optimizer, Shiptimizer, for $99. It gets you the week 12 through the Super Bowl. So what is that right now? Is December, January, and almost February. It's almost 3 months for $99 versus our normal monthly is $54 a month. $99 and you're in. $129 gets you $10 more a month essentially, and you'll get Shiptimizer for classic and showdown slates. So there's that. If you go back to all access, you can use code NBA50 and get 50% off your first month. And that's all access. So you can get $34.50 for all access. Look at the stuff we're doing in NHL. Talk about your pops and what you're doing, helping people out over there. Rio, BJ, the rest of the crew, you in NBA. PGA ends this week, but college football, NFL, MMA just dominated again. All of that is included. $34.50 a month for the content, $49.50 for the month for your first month if you want to include Shiptimizer for all the sports. So ton of good deals going on over at SHIPIT Nation. You guys can check that out. A couple more things in the chat there. Sean mentioned, obviously, petty theft. One of the best to do it, especially probably the best in NBA, just crushing, who retired from NBA DFS, went on Lulz and talked about it. He did talk about people just forgetting about different build types, and mid-tier in NBA being one of those things, because you almost always have value in NBA, but you can also then make the case for if one of the big dogs busts. Well, it all is dependent on the value plays like we talk about in Showdown, Nades, right? Where it depends on what the value does if it's going to be a big dog up top. You can talk more about that, but I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, for sure. Everybody always thinks, right, the NBA, right, the Giannis's, the Lukas, the Jokic's of the world that are 12K, right? But then you get guys that are playing 40 minutes a game that are in the mid-tier, right? NHL, same thing, right? You have mid-tier teams that their entire roster is going to be on the ice for multiple, like all in the mid-tier. You got Jameson Williams in the mid-tier, 5,800, who's going to be on the field every single passing snap damn near for an offense that's implied to score over 30 points, right? You got a Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's cheaper than the running backs. He's going to be he can rack up 15 for 95, not even get the 100-yard bonus, not even get you a touchdown and still be needed, right? So it's just the overall roster construction, I think, is huge. And even with the value, right? I mean, last night I had a terrible main slate, right? Lost $500, made it all back and then some with value scoring 0 points, right, in Showdown. So it's just different slates and value just work differently, right, across main slate. Obviously, you need more things to go right. In a Showdown, when all 4 or all 5 of my spots, including the captain, all have flames and I got a 0 in my lineup, right? I'm still not probably going to ship the tournament most weeks, but I'm going to make a ton of money for the most part because it's what it does for your roster. So just overall thinking through the different roster constructions and going into a slate, right? Listening to the Tambo on the Mayo show, the first look show with him and DGen, who is on a massive, massive heater. If you haven't saw that, I mean, the dude's shipping the last 3 weeks in a row. He's on the first look. He's in the Discord. He's the mastermind behind the Stone, which is obviously the best tool. We just showed you how the Stone literally could have built all these lineups. And you think DGen's not using the Stone to build his shippers? You're mistaken if you think that. So overall, amazing stuff. And just, I mean, Black Friday come early, right? I mean, this deal's going away, I think, right, tonight at midnight.
We're going to feature one more show. We got the show coming up in an hour with Hoop, Title, and myself. We'll get one more shot to get in on the half price special. The end of the rest of season deal is not going away, so that's right there on the screen in front of you. You can get $99 or $129, but that's just, it's basically you're buying for a month and a half and you're getting 3 months. So it's half price for the rest of the season, essentially. It's just a lock in. It runs out at the end of this season. You're good to go. So check that out. I think it's going to be the best deal you're going to get out there that you're going to find. That shout out to my boy Landa here, our guy, Hoops Boy too. He said called the pivot. The Tillman one was there. We had the Bourne one. We had Jonnu Smith. If you're not playing, HN, you could have actually played both in the end as a combo pack. We had the Taysom over Kamara. Like there was a bunch. Didn't fully pay it off if you missed Atlanta, but a pretty good day for myself. So I'm happy to at least get something out of that. Thanks to everybody who supports as always. And then lastly, Todd says, with all these amazing tools, sometimes I get torn on which tool to carry the most weight, if that makes sense. I will say that is part of it. That's what SHIPIT Nation is all about, right? When you're over on the site, you've got all these options. I do understand that there's, our goal is less is more, but we want to give you opportunity to play around with them and see. So, when I sent it out, speaking of which, going back to Tambo's Tidbits, because there's going to be an announcement later this week. And then Saturday, there will be a show on the SHIPIT Nation YouTube station regarding this new upcoming project that I've been working on. But I will say the most common thing was people saying, if I could just get your process, if I could just see over your shoulder and what you're looking at and how you do it and what you review and how you apply it and how you use the optimizer and Shiptimizer and all of these things, those were the most common questions. So you want to go over to tambostidbits.com, get your email on the list. If you're on there already, that's great. You'll be ahead of things. There will be a poll on my X at ToeTagginTambo this week. You go over here and see it right there. I'm going to let the community and the public vote on what time the show is on Saturday, and I'm going to hop on and break everything down for you and more. So keep that in mind over there. I think that's going to do it, though, for this one, guys. For Nades, thank you guys for watching. Hit the like button on the way out. I meant to say, and make sure you're subscribed. That's going to do it for this one. For Nades, for myself, ToeTagginTambo, let's ship it.